Welcome back to Wickedly Judged, the podcast where we uncover the stories behind wrongful convictions and expose the cracks in our justice system. I'm your host, Rebecca, and today's episode is one that will leave you questioning how far the justice system will go to secure a conviction, even at the expense of truth and fairness. Today, we're diving into the case of Senrick Wilkerson, a man whose story is a chilling example of prosecutorial misconduct, constitutional rights violations, and a system that seems more focused on maintaining a conviction than actually delivering justice. Senrick was arraigned on a single charge of compelling prostitution back on September 7, 2008. He was released on the bond very next day. But that wasn't the end of his ordeal. 2 years later, on November 22, 2010, prosecutors filed two new charges: sexual performance of a child and sexual assault, without any arrest, without any grand jury, and without following the basic principles of due process. Just days later, indictments were filed on November 24, 2010, and arrest warrants were issued on November 29, 2010, only to be dismissed that same day. To make matters worse, there are conflicting arrest dates for the sex charges, and no arrest reports or any evidence to back them up. It's as though the system was fabricating a case to ensure a conviction at all costs. This isn't just a story about one man's fight for justice. It's about a system that disregards the very laws it's supposed to uphold. It's about a pattern of misconduct that has left Senrick fighting for his freedom and his truth. Today, we're honored to have Senrick Wilkerson himself join us. He'll walk us through this shocking timeline, share his experience of being railroaded by the system, and explains what it means to fight for justice when the odds are stacked against you. But before we dive into the interview, let's take a moment to reflect on the broader implications of this case and what it tells us about the flaws in our justice system. Cases like this don't exist in isolation. They're part of a broader pattern of systemic failures in our justice system. From prosecutorial misconduct to the misuse of procedural rules, these flaws often leave innocent people fighting against insurmountable odds. Due process is a fundamental principle in the legal system that ensures fairness, transparency, and justice. It guarantees that individuals are given proper notice, an opportunity to be heard, and a fair trial before the government can deprive them of life, liberty, or property. Due process is enshrined in the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution, which protect individuals from arbitrary or unjust legal actions. The role of due process is supposed to protect individual rights. It ensures that people are treated fairly by law enforcement, prosecutors, and courts, preventing wrongful convictions and unjust punishments. It's supposed to ensure fair trials. Defendants have the right to legal representation, the ability to present evidence, and protection against self-incrimination. It's supposed to prevent government overreach. It acts as a safeguard against abuses of power by ensuring that the legal system follows the proper procedures. And it's supposed to maintain public trust. When due process is upheld, people have confidence in the justice system, knowing that it operates fairly and transparently. When due process is ignored or violated, it can lead to severe consequences, like wrongful convictions. Innocent individuals may be imprisoned or even sentenced to death without a fair chance to defend themselves. Unlawful detainment. People can be held in custody without proper justification or trial, violating their rights. Erosion of justice system integrity. If due process is not followed, it undermines trust in the legal system, making people question its fairness. And increased government abuse. Without procedural safeguards, authorities may engage in misconduct, such as coercion, forced confessions, or fabrication of evidence. With a lack of accountability, officials bypass due process. It becomes harder to hold them accountable for their wrongful actions. In cases where due process is neglected, such as wrongful convictions, victims may spend years behind bars for crimes they did not commit. This not only affects the individuals, but also their families, their communities, and society as a whole. The absence of due process allows systemic injustices to persist, disproportionately affecting marginalized groups who may not have the resources to fight back. Prosecutorial misconduct is a serious issue in the criminal justice system, occurring when prosecutors engage in unethical or illegal practices that compromise a fair trial. This can include withholding evidence or making improper arguments to sway a jury. While prosecutors have immense power to seek justice, misconduct can lead to devastating consequences, especially in cases involving wrongful convictions. Studies and reports indicate that the issues are widespread of prosecutorial misconduct. The National Registry of Exonerations has found that misconduct contributed to over 50% of wrongful convictions, especially in serious cases like murder. A 2020 report by the Fair Punishment Project highlighted systemic failures in holding prosecutors accountable, even when misconduct is completely identified. Some of the common forms of misconduct are Brady violations, which is withholding exculpatory evidence that could prove a defendant's innocence. Knowingly using false testimony, which means to allow witnesses to lie under oath or even fabricating evidence. Coercion and threats, pressuring witnesses to testify falsely or intimidating defendants into accepting plea deals. Racial bias and jury manipulation, excluding jurors based on race or making prejudicial statements against them. And of course, lack of accountability. Prosecutors have absolute immunity for actions taken during trial, meaning they often face no personal consequences for their own misconduct. Disciplinary actions are rare, and even when misconduct is proven, convictions are not always overturned. Some of the ways that we can fight prosecutorial misconduct is by stronger oversight committees and accountability, implementing independent review boards and harsher consequences for misconduct, ending absolute immunity, allowing prosecutors to be held civilly liable for egregious violations, transparency and evidence disclosure, strict enforcement of Brady rules and open file policies in all criminal cases, and definitely better training and ethical standards, ensuring prosecutors are trained to uphold justice rather than simply securing convictions. Prosecutorial misconduct is not just a technical flaw, it's a deep injustice that ruins lives and undermines the legal system. So why is it that police and prosecutors are not held accountable when they violate the law? How do we ensure that due process is protected for everyone, not just those with resources to fight back? Now let's dive into the heart of today's episode. Joining us is Senrick Wilkerson, who has courageously agreed to share his story with us. Senrick, thank you for being here today. Hey, Senrick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. So let's get into this. I'm going to have you tell the story so that people can pretty much know what has happened to you and what you are going through. So let's start at
Okay.
the beginning. In 2008, you were arrested and arraigned on a charge of compelling prostitution. Can you walk
Yes.
us through what happened during that time, what you were
Yes.
told, and what the outcome of that arrest was?
I purchased a place of business, an adult place of business. Okay. And moving forward, September the 7th, 19, I'm sorry, September 7th, 2008, I was arrested. And moving forward, I was arraigned and I was charged with compelling prostitution.
Okay.
And released, I was released after midnight. So they eventually gave me 2 days of jail credit for that charge. Okay. So I hired Calvin Johnson. That's my defense attorney, and all he did was just pass the case for 2 years. And it is your constitutional right to face your accuser. If someone is accusing you of anything and you go to trial, you have to face them, okay? So apparently they could not find this girl because the compelling prostitution charge was bogus. So when they found this girl, Destiny Austin, she was in jail on 3 felony charges looking at 15 years.
Now, how did
This is when
you meet, not to interrupt, but how did you meet Destiny?
Destiny came to work at my place of business. It was called Ecstasy Suites. She was only there 3 days, okay?
And how old was Destiny when she came to work at your establishment?
All of her paperwork showed that she was 19. Her ID showed that she was 19 at the time. And so we didn't know that she was 16 until after she got arrested, after I called up to my place of business and told her to get out because she had drugs on her. She was trying to sell the girl drugs, and 2 girls was going to jump on her because one of the girls caught her stealing money out of the other's purse. Yeah, so I called up there. Long story short, I called up there and told her to get out.
Okay.
So I wasn't polite.
Well, no, that's understandable as a business owner.
I was not polite, and she eventually left. So a week and a half later, I guess, she got arrested in Fort Worth at a mall for shoplifting. And she never said anything about me because honestly, there was nothing to say.
Right.
And let's see. So again, she got arrested. In addition to that arrest for shoplifting, she was wanted by the Denton County Police for being a runaway, and then she had an assault charge on her. Okay.
Okay.
So when she got to juvenile, this is when she decided to tell the police, told the juvenile people that she was working because she was trying to find a way out of juvenile, okay?
Okay.
So she decided to talk to a counselor, I guess, and then that's when they called these dirty police up there, and they gave her a script. She even testified and said that they gave her a script and told her what to say and what they wanted her to say and all this, and I got a little portion of that transcript that I can send to you. But so the 2 years went by and she's in jail again. And this is when they decided to put the sexual assault on me and the sexual performance on me. And this is when they violated my right. They never arrested me. They never arraigned me. I never had any court dates or anything like that, So that's where all the dirty work came in, the prosecutorial misconduct and the dirty police work. They did all of this on purpose with intent. So on the date of November the 22nd is when they filed these sexual assault and sexual performance charges against me while Destiny was in jail. And 2 days later, which was November the 24th, 2010, they filed the indictment. Now, it's impossible to get an indictment in 2 days.
Right. It takes time to convene the grand jury and everything. It's not something that just happens.
It's every other quarter where a grand jury meets. So how can you file some rape charges on the 22nd and then turn around and go meet with a grand jury on the 24th and hit me with some indictments?
What evidence did they present to the grand jury?
Number one, there's no arrest report, but there's several different arrest dates. Number two, there's no office report for sexual assault or sexual performance. There's no type of office report that says anything about sexual assault or sexual performance. There's nothing that says anything about me holding a gun to her head and raping her. There's no probable cause reports from the police never investigated these sex charges. Of course, there's no physical evidence and there's no physical or DNA evidence at all for these, charges. So if they met with a grand jury, they didn't have nothing to take before grand jury.
So were there any charges ever brought against her for having a fake ID and all of that?
No, they didn't. Nothing. No. And here in Texas, and when you get in the courtroom with these people, and I've seen situations where there was a female who lied to another man and said, yes, I told him that I was 19, but she was really 15. And she went and testified. She said, I lied to him and said I was 19. And you know what? The courts will tell you, so we don't care. They still don't care.
Wow.
They do not care. And this man ended up getting 10 years when the girl even said, she wrote a statement and everything. She said, I lied to him and told him that I was 19. Having a court-appointed attorney will get you some time, because they'll scare you into stuff. But they didn't scare me because they tried to tell me, the trial lawyer tried to tell me I was going to get 60 years. I'm like, dude, I ain't signing nothing. I'm not signing nothing for something I didn't do,
That's exactly right. They try to get you to take a plea deal so that way they can hurry up and get the case over with and cover up all their crimes.
Yeah. But the thing is, by me not taking that plea, that caused them to come up with some more mess, create some more fraud, falsify some more documents. So I've told this story so many times. If I get asked specific questions, I can go into detail more, because I know you asked me about the compelling prostitution charge, which that's the only charge that I should have went to trial for. They was not going to beat me on that charge, and they know it.
So what did explain why you got the compelling prostitution charge in the first place and how you have protected yourself?
Because in 2008, I purchased this place of business. It was called Ecstasy. All I did was attach a new name and call it Ecstasy. I was incorporated, and I was getting set up to where I can pay my taxes, okay? Because it's a place of business. A white man, his name is Dennis, God rest his soul, he passed away over a decade ago. He had the place since 1998, okay? When I bought the place from him in January of 2008, I got rid of every female up there that did drugs, because they was everybody, all the girls that was working in there at that time was drug infested. They were shooting heroin and doing all that. So when I bought the place in January of 2008, I had to do a cleansing in that place,
okay.
And which means we didn't open till late February. So when you came and applied for a position, number one, you're an independent contractor. You don't have a schedule. You can come in whenever you want to. You can leave whenever you want to. I collected the door fee for whenever a guy wanted a 20-minute session, 30-minute session, or hour session, or a hot tub session. I just collected what they paid at the door. So if they paid $40 for a 20-minute session, they automatically know to tip the girl $40. And whatever she did behind closed doors, that was their business. However, I was protected if they solicited if any kind of prostitution or whatever was solicited. In my contracts was the lease agreement. You're independent, you're 18 years old or older, no prostitution, and no nudity. Now, everybody in the world know what happens. It even happens in the strip club, okay? But by me having these contracts, it protects me if you get caught with an undercover cop. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
So Destiny's first day was April the 18th, 2008. Came in, filled out all her paperwork. She had her ID. Now, I didn't hire her. I didn't go through all that. My son's mother hired her. And my son's mother later testified to hiring this girl, okay? So she took a copy of her ID. She had her fill out all her paperwork, and she put it in the filing cabinet. Destiny elected to stay and work there, and she used the alias name Jesse, okay? Now, if you get a session, there's a login sheet to where it says your name, which you would put Jesse on there, and you would put the time of session, and you would put the time that you are clocking in with this customer. And then when he leaves, you put the time out.
Okay.
That's it. So she elected to work that day, that night. She did not do one appointment. The next day, which was April the 19th, looking on the login sheet, there's a name, Jesse, which means she did one appointment, okay? She did not do any prostitution because she did a 40-minute session. The man paid her $40, and then he tipped her $40. So she just, I guess, modeled whatever in lingerie or whatever. Okay, so that was April 19th. April the 21st was her third and final day. I was at the gym playing basketball. This was April 19th. April 19th. I'm sorry, not April 19th. April the 21st, which was a Tuesday. I was at the gym playing basketball. There was Joy and Elise working that day. Destiny came in. So there's 3 people there that morning. I was playing basketball. My phone was going crazy. So when I stopped playing, I picked up my phone. Okay, I called Elise back. I'm like, what's going on? I said, where's Joy? She said, Joy is in the session. She said, we finna beat this girl up because she stole money out of my purse. Joy caught her. She stole $60 out of my purse. I said, do not put your hands on this girl because nobody knows her. You don't know where she's from. She's ghetto. You don't know what kind of people she hang out with. I do not need the police called up there because y'all done jumped on this girl. I said, have Joy call me when she gets out. So when Joy finished her appointment, Joy called. She said, yeah, we're about to beat her ass. I said, do not touch her. I said, where is she? She said, she's back there doing drugs, and she was trying to sell them drugs, okay? And that I angered. It made me so angry because I hate drugs. I said, what I'm going to do, I am going to hang up with you, and I'm going to call the shop phone. I'm going to call the office phone, answer the phone, and then kindly hand her the phone. So phone rang. Thank you for calling XC Suites. I said, put her on the phone now. So she got on the phone, and I said, look, and like I said, I wasn't polite, okay? I said, you have 15 minutes to get the hell out of my place of business, and I'll be there in 20. And if you're there when I get there, you're going to have a problem. So we exchanged words. She threatened to send some dudes up there and all this and this and that. And she know I hate the N-word, so she continued to say it. I'm like, yeah, I bet you that'll be out of my place when I get there. Now, I had I was not gonna go up there at all. I just knew that I could scare her to the point to getting out. And a few minutes later, Joy called me. She said, hey, she left, but before she left, she went into the file cabinet and took out her paperwork. She took her stuff because we asked her, what are you doing? I'm getting my paperwork. This and that. He told me to get out, so I'm getting my stuff. And they said, well, I was like, I don't care. She took her stuff. Okay, well, good reason. She was gone, okay? And I was glad. I never advertised her. She was not on my website, nothing, because she really looked like a man to me. Like, she looked like a boy, you know? She wasn't attractive at all, you know? I was just trying to get more females up there because the place is new. I'm trying to get people to come over here, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, again, and I didn't know that she got arrested after I had told her to get out. But after she left, we just kind of did some research on her. And this is when MySpace was popular. And we looked on MySpace. We found her, and she had her age at age 17. And I'm like, this girl's supposed to be 19 years old, but she got on her MySpace saying she's 17. What is she trying to get us some dudes? She wants some high school dudes or something? You know,
right.
Nothing up. We thought nothing up. So that's when she ended up getting arrested. She ended up going to jail in Denton County. Went and got her because she was wanted for being a runaway, and then she was wanted for an assault charge, and she ended up in juvenile. And this is when she had the detectives come up there. The detectives came up there, and like I said, they gave her a script, try to trap me up, whatever. So May 1st, 2008, they had her call me, and she told me who she was. She said, "This is Destiny." I'm like, "Destiny? Who is Destiny?" Destiny Austin. I only knew about Jazz, you know, because not Jazzy. I'm sorry. What name did I say?
Jessie.
Jessie. I only knew about Jessie, okay? And she said, it's Destiny Austin. I'm like, she said, yeah, I went by Jessie. I was like, okay, what's up? What you want? Well, can I come back to work? There, it's not working out for me. I was like, that's not my problem. Well, whatever. And you can't come back up here. And I said, hold on, let me ask you something while we got you on the phone. I said, how old are you really? Because we found you on MySpace and your age say 17. She said, I'm 19. I was like, nah, that don't make no sense for you to put 17 on MySpace and have hundreds of thousands of people. I said, are you trying to get your little high school boy or something? I'm really 19. I was like, okay. Well, I'm just saying it don't make sense to me. You know, so then she said, well, you know how old I really am. I said, dude, you just said you was 19 several times, so why were you talking about that again? She said, you know, I told you that I was 16 and you said it was all right. Now, at the time, I had no idea I was being recorded. And when I tell you, Rebecca, I lost my cool. I went all on her, telling her, why are you 16 years old out here? You know, I said, you know what kind of trouble that you can get me into if you was at my place of business if you did anything, thank God you didn't do nothing up there. I said, you need to take your butt to school. I don't want to go to school. Just we going back and forth. I'm like, dude, you crazy. And she said, okay, well, can I get some of that money back that I gave you? I said, you never given me any money. What are you talking about? Like, you're just being stupid now. Okay, what about when we had sex and you beat me up and you hit me in my face? I said, what? They kind of laughed. I'm like, this girl crazy. You crazy, man. And she said, oh, you did this and this. And I was like, man, you have problems. And then she says, okay, but Shen, I'm really trying to get back. I'm trying to come F with you. I don't want to say the F word. She said, I'm trying to come F with you, though. I'm like, number one, you need to grow up. You need to take your butt back to school. So as we're talking, my phone hung up. So I called back. And when I called back, I said, look, I don't know who you're trying to play games with, but you're going to get hurt because you're going to mess with the wrong person. Here's the thing. You're lying because I never touched you. I never hit you. I never had sex with you. You never given me any money. I don't know where you're getting all this stuff from. What is wrong with you? And then the phone hung up. She hung up the phone on. So now I know that the police know that, like, this man did not incriminate himself. So they hung up on me, okay? And I'll tell you all day long this story. I'll tell it to the United States Supreme Court, this same very story. My encounters with this girl. Because I'm not no rape, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that was May 1st. Then September 7th, 2008, that's when they kicked my doors in. And I know I keep going back to that because this 2008 arrest is the root of all of this mess. Because they're trying to tie the 2010 fraudulent falsified sex charges against me with that 2008 arrest. Something that they just cannot do.
Right.
Because when I was arraigned before Magistrate Judge Janice Wolf, and she read out compelling prosecution. And they got that on video. When you get arraigned, it's recorded and it's transcribed.
Right.
For appeal purposes, because it's part of your due process. If you mess up in due process, you messed up the whole case.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a case if due process is messed up.
Shouldn't be a case, exactly. So they knew that the compelling prosecution was garbage. I hired Calvin D. Johnson. I graduated from Howard Payne in 1996 with Calvin D. Johnson. We used to play ball in college together. Basketball. He was supposed to have been like a brother. He was a friend. He was like fam. Okay? And every Tuesday and Thursday, if you remember, I said I was at the gym playing basketball when I called up there and told the girl to leave.
Right.
That same particular day, Calvin Johnson was up there playing basketball. Every Tuesday and Thursdays, we played ball from 8:30 to like 1:30 p.m. Okay, at 24-hour fit. So Calvin told me one day that his stepdad had caught his third note case. And he was looking at 25 to life. It's not my business. I don't care. I don't know your stepdad. But I'm listening to him because it's supposed to be my friend. I'm more concerned about this compelling prosecution mess.
Right.
Which he said it was crap. He said it was BS and he was going to get it dismissed. I said, hurry up. Now, I was having court dates and not knowing. Calvin was forging my name on pass slip. In July of 2010, the prosecutor offered me 8 years probation on the compelling prostitution charge. I had no idea. I never knew about it. Calvin, the trial attorney, he never told me about it. And I have a copy of that pass slip.
Wow.
Yeah, and he'll lie about it to this day and said, I told Sen about the probation. He said he didn't want it. If you told me about the probation, if I would have known about this probation, my signature would be on that pass slip, man. That's proof right there that he never told me. Okay? So that gave him and the prosecutor time to put these false charges on me, to add these new sex charges. Because again, like I said, it's your prosecutional right. It's your constitutional right to face your accuser.
Right.
So they had to find this girl. When the prosecutor offers you probation off the rip, that means they don't have nothing. You want me that bad, but you offering me probation off the muscle. No, they wanted me to go to prison. So they searched and they found the girl. She was right up under their nose. She was in jail on 3 felony charges, looking at 15 years. They went to her. Destiny did not decide to say I raped her. They went to her and said, you can get out of this. We need you to say he raped you with a gun to your head, and we're going to drop your charges and let you.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
And this is when they came up with that sexual assault and that sexual. They just threw everything together and they did it too fast. So they keep saying the whole time I was incarcerated after I got illegally convicted, I was told those new charges came out of the same episode as the compelling prostitution. So there was no need to rearrest you or arraign you. I was like, Well, that's a lie.
Right.
That's a lie. If I'm out on bond and if I commit compelling prostitution again on this same girl, you're gonna come and arrest me and charge me with another count.
Right.
Forcing somebody to prostitute and raping someone is completely different.
Absolutely. And the fact that you didn't even know that she was a minor until she told you.
No, until I didn't know she was a minor. Yeah, until she said that on the phone when they called.
Yeah.
When they had her call made first, which I did not know I was being recorded. And I really don't care,
Regardless, because at this point, it doesn't matter what her age was. The fact of the matter is, you didn't do this.
No.
That's all that matters. You didn't do this. She lied. She got out of 15 years in prison. And how has your life been after these fraudulent charges and going to county, and what happened after you got to county?
When after I got convicted?
Yes. Well, let's back up a minute.
Okay.
When they finally give you a court date for the compelling prostitution, is that the day that they did jury selection for these other charges?
The next day. I had a letter. No, let me back up just a little bit. I told you the dates. November the 22nd is when they filed the 6 charges. Mm-hmm. November the 24th, this is in 2010. November the 24th is when they filed the indictment. November the 29th is where they issued the arrest warrant, and they dismissed the warrants the same day. I had no idea about that at the time, but Calvin Johnson continued to tell me to leave the state and hide. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And December the 3rd, 2010, which is a Friday, he asked me to meet him at the courthouse. Now, there's not a judge in this country that'll allow you to be released on a PR bond, a personal repugnance bond, for a 6 charge.
Correct.
They're not going to do it. This judge signed 4 PR bonds. I didn't know what I was signing at the time because Calvin would let me read. He asked me to meet him at the courthouse on December the 3rd, and I thought I was going to get arrested, but I wasn't. So he took me to the clerk's window, folded back the paper. I was like, let me read this, bro. He said, no, man, just sign this. Just go take off the warrants. I was like, well, he said take off the warrants because the whole time I'm waiting on the police to come kick my doors in again, like they did for compelling prostitution. Now, again, you have to think, what's worse, making somebody prostitute allegedly or allegedly raping someone with a gun? Okay?
Right.
So if I rape this girl with a gun, you better believe that they're going to come kick my doors in again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But it never happened because those warrants were dismissed. And number one, those warrants were null and void anyway because they were never signed by a magistrate judge, because there's no complaint affidavit and no probable cause affidavit to back a warrant up. You have to have those things to take before a magistrate judge in order for them to sign off on a warrant. Never happened. So after that, I signed the papers, didn't know what I was signing. He just said the warrants were being taken off. Okay, I went home. I received a letter in the mail the following week that I had a court date for a compelling prostitution charge on December the 13th.
Okay.
I show up to court. Like, it's a court date. I show up to court. Usually I'll show up, sign the pass slip, and go back home. He'll reset it. So I showed up to court. He takes me downstairs to another court, and we go sit in the room. He comes in with a plea agreement. I said, what's that? He said, big dog, I need you to sign the plea agreement. I said, oh, plea agreement for what? He said, this is for 12 years, big dog, because I ain't going to be able to win this trial, man, if we go to trial. You don't want to go to trial, man, because you don't want to get 60 years. Again, I'm thinking this is just for the compelling prostitution charge, because this is the only charge that I had court dates for. Okay? I said, I'm not signing nothing. I'm not signing something I ain't doing. Man, the judge gonna get mad and give you 60 years if we go to trial. I said he can give me 60 life sentences because I'm not signing something that I didn't do. I'm not built like that. Sorry.
Right.
He goes back in, come back, man. We're gonna have to go to trial if you don't sign the plea. Let's go to trial. Went before this judge, this racist KKK member. His name is Judge Keith Dean. Judge Keith Dean was voted off the bench in 2004 for sending a black man to prison for marijuana, giving him a life sentence, and then he gave a white man probation for murder.
Wow.
The state board got him off the bench. Yes, the state board. He looked like a Klan member. He has that look, okay? So that's who they had to do my trial in a drug court where they decipher bond hearing, where they have bond hearing, okay? This judge say, okay, you don't want something to plead? I said, I'm not signing something for something that I didn't do, not doing it. Well, okay, we're going to trial. And he told me what we were going to trial for: compelling prostitution, sexual performance on a child, and sexual assault on a child. I said, what? I went off.
I bet.
So the next day, they picked out the jury. We picked out the jury the next day.
Wow. How long was your trial?
It started on the 14th, and it ended on, which was Tuesday, and it ended Friday. See, I went to trial and went home.
They what?
And
Wait, what?
sorry, I went to trial because I wasn't in custody. I went to trial, and then I went back home. And then went to trial the next day and went back home. And then the last day, when they said guilty, there's no way in hell that 12 people, I don't think 12 all-white jury in Mississippi would have found me guilty for this mess that they did. Caught the girl. The girl got caught lying on the stand so many times. It was so crazy. And I'm looking at the jury, and they just shaking their head. And I'm looking at, and the prosecutor's getting frustrated because she going off the script, you know. And for this girl to get up there and say that I held her down with one hand, and in my other hand I held a gun to her, and then I raped her.
I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of that because statistically speaking, when most rapes occur, they're with a knife or a sharp object because they're easier to hold and easier to control the victim. A gun, you could swat it away because you don't have as much control over holding a gun. So I would like to see the statistics on how many rapes occur with a gun. But the thing that cracks me up is the fact that you're on trial for rape and you weren't in custody. So they just let you go home after every day. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, because I was out on bond for the compelling prostitution charge. You know what I mean?
That's wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, and when they put these new sex charges on me, you know, I mean, everything, every God-given right known was violated by them.
Absolutely.
And what I was told from an FBI agent, if an arrest warrant is dismissed, the case is dismissed. The case is no good.
Yet you were convicted, and then how long?
Trial on it,
Yeah, how long did you sit in county before anything happened?
I sat in county for 34 months. I lost my appeal because my appeal attorney, she got mad because I couldn't get her $15,000. She asked for it. I was able to raise her $10,000 while I was on the inside, and she ended up joining up with them because she knew a lot of people. They know a lot of people gonna get in trouble. I had court dates for regarding to my appeal. She was showing up. She never told me about it.
Wow.
She never told me. And when she came to see me, I said, "Why the hell would you tell me about the court?" Oh, it was them. That did it. It wasn't me. I didn't. I'm like, yeah, I know you. It's all good. I said, you're gonna pay for that. You believe in God. He's coming. Y'all brave.
That's crazy. So then once they move you to, I guess, the Department of Corrections, what happened when you got there?
Well, here's what happened. I had learned the law. I was learning the law. I was getting really good with it. I had got myself before Judge Lewis, who's an evil judge, and because I filed a Chapter 64 DNA test. I know they don't have any DNA to match my DNA with, but I'm trying to get them to show their hand, and I need something on transcript, which I got it on transcript. And the judge was like, before you go to trial, you have to be arraigned, you have to be arrested and arraigned, and da-da-da-da. I said, that's my point. I never was arrested or arraigned on these 6 charges, this and that. And this lawyer that she assigned me to, her name was Julie Doucette, now Julie Lesser. She said, Your Honor, he waived, let me talk to him because he waived his arraignments. I said, I didn't waive my arraignments. When? I said, when did I do that? She showed me a portion of a transcript that they made up. She said, you, not your attorney, you waived your arraignments. Number one, I cannot waive my arraignments if I have an attorney. My attorney has to do it.
Right.
But how can I waive my arraignment the day after we pick the jury? That don't even make sense.
Wow.
So I'm like, we pick out a jury on the 14th, and then the 15th, before we start trial, I waive my arraignment. I said, that don't even make no sense.
That's blatant that they
I said, that
just...
don't make no sense at all.
Yeah, that's just so in your face that they made up those records.
Oh, yeah. And I said, then she said, well, is this your argument, to your knowledge, that you think or you believe that you was never arrested for these new charges? I said, what you mean to my knowledge? I know for a fact that I was never arrested and never arraigned for these charges. That lady looked at me and the judge and said, it's not required that you be arrested for those charges. I'm like, you dumb as hell. I say, you have a law degree. I have a physical education degree, and I can sit up here and tell you that's some baloney.
Absolutely.
So the judge told us to take it outside, like, no action. So 2 weeks later, I went before another judge. When I told him what they did, oh, he was angry. He said, you mean to tell me that you went to trial on these 6 charges and you wasn't arrested or arraigned? Who was your trial lawyer? I told him. He shook his head when I said Calvin John. Who was your appeal attorney? I told him that. Lori Ordway is a good appeal attorney. I said, not at this time. She didn't argue that? Nope. So after that, I was called to the sheriff office. The officers came and got me and took me to the sheriff's office. I'm like, why y'all got me in here? Well, we trying to figure out how they got away with it. I said, got away with what? They said, we've been looking at everything. You know, you're right. You were supposed to get arrested. You were supposed to be arraigned on these new charges. You weren't supposed to be tried on these charges. I'm like, good. Now I'm getting somewhere because I have this one judge and then I have the sheriff's office knowing this. So they said I was going to hear back from them. A few weeks later, they called me out and put me on the chain bus. Two buses.
Hearing Senrick's story, it's clear that this isn't just about one person. It's about a system that consistently fails to protect the innocent and hold the guilty accountable. So what can we do to fix it? Let's talk about justice reform and the steps we can take to create a fair system. We need accountability for prosecutors and law enforcement. One of the biggest issues in cases like Senrick's is the lack of accountability for those in power. Prosecutors and law enforcement officers who engage in misconduct often face little to no consequences. Reforming this requires stronger oversight, independent review boards, and harsher penalties for those who violate the law. We need to improve access to legal resources. Many wrongful convictions happen because defendants don't have access to adequate legal representation. Expanding public defender programs, funding legal aid organizations, and providing better training for defense attorneys are all critical steps in leveling the playing field. We need to address racial disparities in the system. It's no secret that racial bias plays a significant role in wrongful convictions. We need to reform the appeals process. Procedural barriers often prevent people from appealing their cases, even when there's clear evidence of misconduct or innocence. Reforming the appeals process to focus on the merits of a case rather than the strict deadlines is essential for achieving justice. Now, how can you help? You don't have to be a lawyer or a policymaker to make a difference. Support organizations that advocate for justice reform. Educate yourself and others about the issues. And most importantly, use your voice to demand change from your representatives. We want to take a moment to remind you that your voice matters. While this isn't a live show, we encourage you to share your thoughts, questions, or personal stories with us. You can email us at wickedlyjudged@gmail.com or visit our website at wickedlyjudged.com and leave your message on the Contact Us page. Your input helps us uncover more stories, inspire change, and advocate for justice reform. Whether it's a question about today's episode, a story about your own experience, or a suggestion for a future topic, we'd love to hear from you. Let's work together to shine a light on injustice and fight for a better system. Senrick's story is one of resilience, courage, and a fight against a system that too often prioritizes convictions over truth. If this episode moved you, we encourage you to take action. Visit our website at wickedlyjudged.com to purchase merchandise like our Wickedly Judged logo t-shirt, Prison Reform t-shirt, or Justice is Blind t-shirt. Make a donation to support our mission, or even submit a case for us to review. Every contribution helps us continue to advocate for justice reform and expose the flaws in the system. We also want to highlight Senrick's book, Innocent Black Man, which is available now on Amazon.com. It's a powerful account of his story and a must-read for anyone passionate about justice reform. We'd also like to remind you that this is just the first half of our interview with Senrick. We'll be finishing up this powerful conversation in our next episode. So be sure to tune in next Thursday to hear the conclusion of his story and more about his fight for justice. We want to give a special thank you to JP Verse for providing the intro and outro music that sets the tone for every episode. and to Veteran Alliance for sponsoring this podcast and supporting our fight for justice. Thank you for tuning in to Wickedly Judged. Don't forget to follow us on social media, share this episode, and join us next time as we continue to uncover the truth and advocate for change. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay fighting for justice, because no one deserves to be wickedly judged.